Pop Pop Killed Hitler by Ben Park. I'm going to start with the prayer for my grandfather, my dad's dad, Charles Thacker Park, Pop Pop. I'm going to end with that same Pop Pop killing Hitler. Yeah, that Hitler. Pop wrote this prayer on the back of his Sears business cards. I keep one with me in my wallet wherever I go, just like Pop. Want to see? Okay, here goes. Type of person I want to be. Living a better Christian life each day as a living witness. Helping people and tithing. A better husband to Joe. A daddy to the children. A pop-pop to the grandchildren. A daddy-in-law to Jerry, Mike, and April. A friend to people I associate with, that they remember me with love and respect. To earn a good income, that Joe and I can retire in comfort. Strive never to condemn, complain, or criticize, say bad words, or have bad thoughts. Thanks for the words, Pop. I don't pray anymore. It's just not for me, but it doesn't get much better than that one. My grandfather was a good and simple man, like a prayer ought to be. Good and simple. We lived with him and my grandmother for 6 or 7 years. From 1st to 7th grade for me. Franklin, Kentucky. Pop was a lifelong Kentuckian. He was a farmer, a storyteller, a soldier of the Second World War, a salesman at Sears, as honest a man as you'll ever meet. He loved his wife, Josephine Harris Park, Ma to me. He was also a child of God, capital G, of the Christian variety. We prayed together at least once a day for years. I haven't much since. I do remember my last prayer. It was at Pop's funeral. It was directly to Pop Pop. I asked him if he could say hi to my favorite writer, Kurt Vonnegut, who died 3 years earlier. Hey, Pop. It's a beautiful day here in Franklin, Kentucky. I wish you weren't gone, but perhaps it's for the best. If you see Vonnegut, mustache, red Pall Malls, can't miss him. Tell him I said, to quote the Dresden soldier himself, so it goes. So it goes. Vonnegut's response to death. My grandfather is dead. So it goes. Before he went, though, he taught me that we are all here for a reason, whatever your reason might be. What's your reason? I don't know mine. Pop had a few. Pop fought Nazis. He beat a few of them up and stole their shit. He blew up their bridges. Pop was a farmer until the Federal Land Bank reimagined the world of farming. He had a grain mill until the Fed said, no more grain. We will literally pay you to stop milling grain. Look it up. It sounds a little bit off, but it's what they did. Pop had a herd of cows that he was betting his future on. On that herd of cows, the Park family farm empire would be built. That is, until the cows decided to take a walk on and then a dip into a frozen lake. Every last one of them. I imagine they saw the writing on the wall. So it goes. So, his farm useless. His cows drowned. Each was more than likely an act of God if you believe in that sort of thing. I don't, but Pop did. He was at this point what you might call shit out of luck. He then became a salesman at Sears, and he loved that job. He missed it, I think. He just loved talking to people. We'd be driving down the road, and he'd stop right in the middle of it just to talk to some passerby. I wish I had that in me. Pop was a bit of a troublemaker. He used to pull my brother out of school in the middle of the day just to take him to get a slice of pie and a cup of coffee at the townhouse. He used to teach me how to pull pranks. The fake wet willy, the made you look. Pop told great stories about life and death, rich and poor, man and God. Most of all, Pop was a family man. He loved his family. That was his reason, I think, to be there for his family. It's as good a reason as any. I'm here for a reason. Not here, as in physically right here, although I am. I mean, proverbially. Here, for a reason. You are too. I know you are. I'm here for a reason. Say that out loud with me on 3, okay? I'm here for a reason. Really, just give it a try. 1, 2, 3. I'm here for a reason. See? It even has a kind of melody to it. It's kind of like a prayer, a wish, maybe, a hope for hope. I'm here for a reason, and so are you. It's an idea we can't ever give up on. That being said, I have no clue as to what my reason is, and I am not at all prepared for this farewell, I guess. Sometimes I have trouble facing the end, with moving on, you know. I like leaving. I'm good at leaving. Parties, work, school, I like leaving. Leaving means that I'm headed somewhere else. Leaving implies that I'm not stuck. I also enjoy saying bye. Saying bye means that we did something worthwhile enough to signify. Saying bye is tough, but it means that we meant something to one another. Bye is never forever. It's the moving on that gets me. I hate moving on. I hate the reality of being finished. I like theater because the work is never finished. The work is a craft in a constant state of tinkering. I like the tinkering. If all I did in life was tinker, I could die happy, but I hate being done. I hate moving on. It's difficult for me to say, this is the end. You know the feeling? Of course you do. This is the end. Ugh. So it goes. Pop didn't know that feeling. Pop loved moving on. To dessert, to sleep, even to his own afterlife. It took him all of a week after my grandmother died to announce out loud and to his grandchildren, I'm ready to go, I want to see my wife, and I hope the Lord takes me sooner rather than later. I remember laughing when he said that. I mean, this was a guy who was still mowing his own yard, trimming his own trees. He put vinegar in his hair to make it last longer. He certainly didn't seem ready to make his exit. This wasn't a guy who screamed, "I'm on my way out." But what did I know? I was like 12. What did I know of his burdens? Of burden, capital B. And what do I know now? I'm 30, which is this weird age where old people think you're young and young people think you're old. I've only ever worked in theater and restaurants, two dead industries. So it goes. I'm about to have 2 degrees in one of those dead industries. I'm 3,000 miles away from home in a world that has shut down. I mean, what is there to move on to? It's not like I'm going to give it all up and be a farmer, you know. Is there even land to farm anymore? Didn't we give it all to Monsanto? Is there a herd of cows out there with my name on it, or did Pop drown them all? I have no plans on having kids. I could probably sell the shoes off your feet, but I have no interest. There's no reason to fight fascism abroad anymore when we can just take a weekend trip down to Mar-a-Lago. I can't do the things that Pop did. I'm not equipped for anything other than theater and restaurants. And, you know, I'm not really much of a people person. I think there's only like a certain type of person that actually enjoys being around me, and like there's very few of that type of person. Which is fine. I'm not trying to become some beacon of gregariousness here. Sometimes the only person I want to talk to is myself. Unless I have a hefty pour of bourbon in my hand, I probably don't want to talk to you. I'm sorry. I just don't talk to people the way that Pop did. He had a way. I don't think I do. I can't ever just wonder about someone's day. It doesn't interest me. Pop was always interested. He cared about the good and simple things in life. Do I? Do you? I hope I do. I spent a whole childhood wanting to be exactly like Pop. Now I'm grown, wondering who I am. I'm not him, though. Christ. Do you think they'll let me, the school will let me smoke in this thing? I mean, this is my porch. I'll wait. Listen, that wasn't true entirely. I do want to talk to you, and I don't have to be drinking to do it. I like being alone, that's true. But I have my people. I'm not alone. And I am like my grandfather, in some ways. It just feels good to get this shit off your chest sometimes. You know? These burdens weighing you down. The older I get, the more I understand burden. The more I understand Pop's hope to exit his life and move on to his next. So it goes. Pop could shuffle burden off with a shimmy. Life seemed to come so easy to him, and he made life easier for others. He could pull a laugh out of anyone. Even his war stories were funny. I loved his war stories. His stories of life and death, or death and then life. Pop served in the 355th Combat Engineers as a tech corporal. The engineers would build bridges, blow up bridges, and clear the minefields. Sometimes they were in front of the lines, sometimes they were behind the lines, and sometimes they were in between the lines. Pop was pretty good at his job. In fact, he was so good, he developed a particularly effective way of clearing minefields. See, Pop didn't think too much of poking around a minefield, trying to find where the mines were buried. You know, I can relate. So, he decided he would take 3 sticks of dynamite, tie them together, and throw them into the front of a minefield. The shock would set off all the mines around it. Then he would take a few steps forward and do it again. Effective, yeah? Well, one day he came across a minefield and he was running out of dynamite. So he found, guess what? A herd of cows. And listen, if you are a herd of cows, I would not go within 500 fucking miles of my grandfather. The herd of cows was in a field next door. So he opened the gate between the 2 fields and used his last stick of dynamite to stampede the cattle through the minefields. The soldiers made it through. The cows, well, so it goes. Death and then life, I guess. I can't imagine. I can't imagine the shit he must have seen over there in a land filled with blood, hate, and ignorance, led by a handful of spoiled fascists. Doesn't seem too different from our own sometimes, huh? We got lucky that our first successful fascist was an orange fucking idiot. The next one won't be as stupid, and they will be here sooner than we think. It's hard to move on in a world such as this. How did Pop do it? What, Hitler's brains were splayed all over the wall like a Jackson Pollock painting, and that was it? Fascism over? Time to go home? How did Pop move on from all that? Well, for one, he smoked until he was 40 years old, and I'm on my own porch, and I'm having a cigarette. Can't smoke in the theater anymore, fucking fascists. Is this theater? Who cares? I quit smoking. It's a nasty habit, but I'm thinking of taking it up again. Death is a roulette, if this last year taught me anything. I love a good porch, and this is a good porch. Some of my best memories happened on some porch somewhere. Pop and I used to sit on his porch nearly every day, before and after school, from 1st to 7th grade. He had a porch swing, wooden and rickety. We'd sit on it and tell each other jokes. Toss a baseball, kick a soccer ball, tell stories. Every day, nearly, for years. Him, my brother Noah, and me. Times were tough back then. And those little moments brought us solace. Our parents had just divorced. It wasn't nasty like some splits, but it was jarring. And they worked, my parents, all the time. They had to. Times were tough. All we had to fall back on was family. So we moved into Mom and Pop's house. My Aunt Sissy lived right down the road. My brother was 4 and I was 8. And I was angry. I didn't know it then, but now I do. I think those moments on the porch, living with Mom and Pop, saved me from a darkness. Mom and Pop helped me to move on. I wish I had been more thankful. You know? I wish I could remember every single moment I spent in that house. But I can't. It's like I'm locked out. Maybe I locked myself out. I do remember being really mad at my dad this one time. I was never mad at my mom. And it was stupid. Something only kids get mad at. Why is Dad at work all the time? Why isn't he ever at home with me? It wasn't true in the slightest. Pop took me outside, set me down on the porch, looked at me and said, "Lord have mercy, child. I never knew you could be so selfish. There are kids all around this world, right here in Kentucky, who wish they had the things that you had. Food on the table, shelter over their heads, clothes on their back, a family that loves them. Now you sit down and you think about that." And I did. And I still do. It's a perspective that helped shape my life. Pop then told me that his daddy worked himself to death. He was a farmer who died young. So it goes. I was a selfish little prick. I don't take anything for granted now. Or at least I try. My parents nearly worked themselves to death to provide a life for my brother and I. To give us our own picket fence. Our own American dream. What a scam. It shouldn't be so hard. Why is it so hard for so many in this country? Why do the people who work the most make the least? You know why. So do I. So it goes. I don't even want a fucking fence. I don't even want a fucking job. Sometimes I just want to disappear. Get a cabin in Kentucky, my home, capital H, away from everyone and everything. I want to build a stage and act Shakespeare on it in the countryside like the old theater troops. I want a room with a window and a view of trees where I can write like Wendell Berry. I want to grow heirloom tomatoes and black-eyed peas and serve it with country ham and bacon greased biscuits like my ancestors. I want to be simple, and I want to be good, like my grandfather. I miss Kentucky. I miss Appalachia. I miss home. You know? Christ. What? Yeah, I know what you're thinking. I can be a little negative sometimes. Well, if only the rich would trickle down a little positivity to me, then I'd be just fine. Yeah, I can be a little negative sometimes. So can you, I bet. We're working on it, right? And, you know, some things might make me negative, and perhaps they shouldn't. Like, for example, people who say, am I the only one who bloody fucking blahs? No, you're not. There's 8 billion fucking people in this world. Get over yourself. You're making me negative. Or astrology. I'm probably going to lose about a third of you here, but astrology. Astrology is fun. I get it. Have your fun. I'm really into Jedi lore, okay? I'm saying nothing against fun here, but treat it as a science or as a way to explain away how much of a dick you are, and you lose me and most people with a functioning brain. I mean, the constellation that lined up with the sun at the time of your birth is probably not even the one you think it is. The Babylonians picked only 12 constellations and assigned them to months of the year 3,000 years ago, and that's supposed to hold up to modern astronomical observation? Mercury is not in retrograde. It is completing its natural orbit. Or swimming pools. I don't like them. They make me negative. They're like fish tank simulators for humans, and I can't get that image out of my head. But the rich anger me. They play dumb as if we are dumb enough to believe that they are that dumb. There are towns without water. There are people who ration meals. We live in a country of food deserts and school lunch debt. There's not a goddamn thing trickling down. So it goes. Sometimes I feel like I'm losing faith in this world. That's why I tell stories. So I don't lose faith. Everyone has a good story. I have a good story about the last time I saw my grandfather. About how Pop killed Hitler. Pop's mind had dilapidated at this point. Like that porch swing. Wooden and rickety, but it still worked. He was about 6 months from passing, I now know. He remembered me, though. Like I was still a kid trying to sit on his knee and listen to a story. He couldn't get up, but he gave me a hug, asked me about my life, told me about all the dessert he gets. This was maybe 6 or 7 years after he told me that he wanted to die, that he missed his wife and he wanted to see her in heaven. He had his health when he said that, but now, more so than ever, he was ready to move on. So it goes. And yet, he started talking about World War II again. I asked him about that time he beat up a Nazi and stole his motorcycle. About how American soldiers started shooting at him while he was on that motorcycle and he tumbled off, waving the American flag. I asked him about Germany, if he ever misses it. And he told me a story, one I had never heard before, about how him and his buddies had just won the war. They were marching through the remnants. I imagine smoke and fog mixing in the air, freed survivors of death camps marching at their sides, Americans hooting and hollering as we are wont to do, trudging through the muck of the Second World War. He said that they came across a bunker that was hiding Nazi brass inside, as in the brass. They took their guns out and shot through the door. Now, Pop had spared the grisly details in his past stories. I knew that he saw his fair share of violence, but in the end, he was an engineer, a tech guy. I mean, this is not fucking Rambo we're talking about here. But they took their guns, shot through the door, opened it, and there he was. Hitler. Capital fucking H. The devil incarnate. Bullet hole in the middle of his forehead. So it fucking goes. Pop then looked at me and he said, "Now, Ben, I'm not sure if I'm the one that got him, but we got him. America. Fuck yeah." If only, right? My grandfather didn't kill Hitler. Surprise. He probably wasn't even within 100 miles of the monster, I'm sure. He built bridges. He beat up Nazis and stole their motorcycles. He missed his wife. He wanted to start a family. He didn't kill Hitler. He wanted to entertain me one last time. He wanted to tell me a good story. Now, I'm not sure what it's like where you're from, but in Kentucky we tell stories. It's in our blood. We are the bluegrass state. Our stories are all that we have. Pop knew that I wasn't going to see him ever again. That this was it for us. And he wanted to put a smile on my face. And he did. There are times that I think that I'm not here for a reason. That I can't move on. That I don't know how. But I think of that story. My grandfather and I sharing one last laugh. My grandfather, who had hoped for death since he lost the love of his life, he still had his reasons. His reasons to exist. Whether it was making us laugh or enjoying a slice of pie, a cup of coffee, memories of the past, the need to tell a good story. He still had his reasons. We will never have enough time. I wish I could go back. Don't you? I wish I could see him and Ma one more time. I have so many questions. I wish I could tell them how thankful I am. And that I have my reasons too. That I don't know where this life is taking me, but I'm glad that it is. Thank you for hearing me out. This is the end. So it goes.